The Ekiti state governorship election, which held on Saturday, has come and gone, with the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Biodun Oyebanji, emerging winner of the election, while Oyebanji garnered a total of 187,057 votes. Segun Oni, candidate of the Social Democratic Party (SDP) and candidate of the People's Democratic Party, garnered 82,211 votes and 67,457 votes, respectively. The election was, however, marred by reports of vote buying across many polling units, as voters were said to have been offered money to induce those already on queues to vote for their candidates. It was gathered that between 5,000 naira and 10,000 naira was allegedly shared to each of the willing voters. To discuss this further, Nelson Ekujumi, political affairs analyst, joins me now. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, you observed the Ekiti election, which saw the emergence of APC candidate Biodun Oyebanji as winner. What do you make of the election?
Oh, thank you very much. The elections, by all standards, shows that we have made remarkable progress with regards to our electoral system. For the first time in a long while, we saw that INEC performance in this election, if you ask me, was almost 95 to 100%, because in most polling units, as at 8:30 to 9 a.m., INEC had opened most polling stations across the state. We had 2,455 polling stations. And by 9 a.m., almost 95% of those polling stations were up and running. That tells you clearly that, INEC is up and running. And at the conclusion of elections, in a record time, results started trickling in that, you quickly knew where the pendulum would swing. Talking about security, the security was top-notch. You need to have been there, that to have seen the security apparatus, how they were deployed. And it was so visible that any would-be troublemaker knew that, today is going to be a doomsday. So troublemakers or people will have to subvert the process using violence. They stayed away almost completely. By and large, the election has come, the results have been declared. Nobody can dispute the fact that the results declared is the outcome of the will of the people. The people have spoken. Some have alleged that there were irregularities in terms of voters' inducement. In some areas, like we always say, politics is local. You get to some polling stations, you hear complaints from persons, from party agents, and because your responsibility as an observer is not to, interrogate that process, but just to take note. But in some other localities, especially in the rural areas, they conducted the election as though it was a family affair. You see people coming out and, it was like a carnival, a merrymaking event. So the atmosphere for that election was devoid of intimidation, but the inducement of voters is something we cannot gloss over. But in the midst of that, it shows you clearly, those who are saying votes don't count, at least, even if we admit that voters were induced, why were they induced? They were induced because the politicians and the political parties know that these are the people that will determine where the pendulum of election will swing. So that tells you clearly that
do you not think, sorry to interrupt you there, do you not think that the fact that some voters were induced with money to the tune of between 5,000 to 10,000 naira actually masked the whole process entirely?
No, except if somebody can give us a statistics of where those things occur, then we can now arrive at that conclusion. But because you have witnessed it in some areas, you'll not be used to generalize. For example, I was in Ekiti. In Ekiti, I covered almost about 25 polling units with some members of my team. And this allegation that has been rife in the air, we only heard about it in just about 2 polling stations. In other polling stations, people conducted themselves quietly. In those polling stations where this information came out, you need to see the rowdiness in that polling station, that the security agencies had an hectic time controlling them. And, when you have such a large crowd, it gives room for all sorts of activities to go on. But when you have people who are orderly, everybody will be on the guard. Everybody will watch one another. Then from Ekiti, I went to a record in Felodu. I never saw anything of such. I know so complaint of such never occurred. From a record in Felodu, we moved to Ikere, where we didn't even see such. But people came and were telling us, some parties are giving voters money. So for me, I don't think it has marred the process. The only reason or the only conclusion that can make us affirm that is if we take a statistics that out of 2,455 polling units, in 2,200 polling units, they were vote buying. If we can confirm that authoritatively, then there's no doubt that it will have marred it. But in this case, nobody can put, it statistics to polling stations where this thing took place. For us, we observe this complaint majorly in Ekiti, the state capital. And you cannot take that away because Ekiti is a cosmopolitan city. But when you go to other local governments, it is more of the community people. And these allegations were not there in the air.
Well, indeed, Nelson Ekujumi, political affairs analyst, thank you very much for your contribution.